Hey everyone, my name is Mike and I'm here to show you how to get up and running with your new EROS trackers as quickly and easily as possible. So first and foremost, what are EROS trackers and how do they even work? Well, these are IMU-based trackers, which are inertial measurement units. Effectively, they understand rotation. And so when you have two of them and you calibrate the distance between them, if I rotate one, I can calculate the placement of the other in 3D space. So as you're moving, I can give you one-to-one motion capture if you are able to calibrate it to very specific parts of your body, like your hips, your knees, your ankles. And that way, when you move, it's in real time capturing that information and rendering it. So when you look down, your leg moves exactly the way that you would expect it to in VR. And so this is useful for applications like VR chat or for game developers trying to get really lifelike animations. Well, these are built off the open source Slime project, and we are a part of that community. So everything we build is also open sourced back to the Slime community to try and foster further development in this full body tracking space. And so all of this is going to be showing you how to get this technology up and running quickly. So now that you know what they are, what comes in the box? So when you first receive your package, it'll come in this discrete box. That way you can avoid any unwanted eyes or porch pirates from coming by and stealing your precious trackers. But once you open the box, that is where the magic happens. Go ahead and move the paperwork out of the way, and I'll explain this in just a moment. But for now, what you see in this box is an example of our Pro set. That is 10 trackers. Our base core set is 5, and core enhanced is 7. And I'll talk through the differences between those various sets in just a little bit. You see all the trackers lined up down the center, and they're flanked by the straps required to be able to run the system. And we also provide all the cables and bricks that you would need to be able to power the system as well. So this is a self-contained, all parts included box with additional resources available for scanning up above. You can go ahead and remove the trackers from their slots down the center. And I would highly recommend that the first step is go ahead and take your trackers, stack them up, and then plug them in to go ahead and get them charged and ready to go. You can also take out your straps and assess them. So it comes with 2 medium straps, 6 small straps. That could be as few as 2 if you just have the core set. And then 2 large straps. And again, for the core set, that would be 1 large strap. And the large strap is for your waist and or chest. The small straps are for your ankles, feet, and arms. And the medium straps are for your thighs. Additionally, we sell our sets with strap supports that help fight the effects of gravity if you're doing longer play sessions or more intense movements. And I'll walk through how to set this up. This is optional. We also provide strap adapter pads for additional comfort. These are optional as well, but you can take these and apply them to the back of a strap adapter, and that way you can have additional padding to distance your skin from the plastic edge that can be sharp after a few hours of play. Additionally, all of our straps come with silicone backing, so that way they can stay in place for longer as well. And then with our most recent batch, we provide both a singular cable that we use for all of our flashing, and it can also be used for charging. We provide a power brick. That way you can power all of your trackers between 5 and 10. And we provide a custom power cable. So this is a 3-way splitter. So you can plug in a USB-C into the USB-C port and power all of your trackers at once, again, between 5 and 10. And so I'll show you how to go ahead and get that charging set up in just a moment. Before getting into that, I want to talk through the additional materials provided. So you get a little Somatic sticker. Feel free to throw it on a water bottle or what have you. And we also provide stickers to be able to label your trackers. And we provide a second sheet for you to label your strap adapters. That way you can make sure you are putting the same tracker in the same place every time for very easy in and out setup. We also provide the references for regulatory guidance in a variety of languages to comply with international shipping laws. And then lastly, I mentioned it earlier, but there are QR codes to scan up above where you can get additional information on getting set up and pro tips on making sure that they're functioning at their best. And we also have a Discord community where we can answer all of your questions as quickly as possible that is actively growing and very supportive. So if you have any questions or need any additional help, please come join us over there and we'd be happy to answer your questions. So as you may have noticed, our trackers are magnetic, and that is by design to allow it for easy use, but also charging. These charge up the stack one after the other, and they will turn on and illuminate as they charge. So I'll show that in just a moment, but effectively that will let you, in a glance, be able to see which one is charging and how far into the charging process you are. And just an important note for this batch specifically, our maximum size of tracker stack is 4. Anything beyond that, you're not going to be able to charge because there's a little bit of power loss between each level of the stack. Additionally, and this is very important, only plug in to the bottom tracker in the stack if you're charging. Do not plug it in to something midway up the stack like that, or plug it in on the top of the stack like that. Doing so will almost immediately burn out the board below, and that will cause the board to no longer be functional. So you need to make sure, if you're going to plug these in to charge, only plug into the bottom tracker. And we're going to provide additional documents in this box to make sure that that is very apparent. And the future batches, this design has been altered to be able to make sure that that is not possible to reverse flow the charge. But for now, if you're going to plug it in, only plug into the bottom, and you can vertically stack on top of that one. And as they charge, they'll illuminate. So I'm going to use the white cable that comes in the box to be able to demonstrate this because it's a little bit easier for me right now. So you can unwrap this, plug it into your wall outlet, and you can take a tracker, and when you plug it in, you'll see the blue LED on the side illuminate, and then once after about 8 to 10 seconds, you'll see it start to blue pulse slowly, almost like a breathing pattern. That pattern indicates that it is currently charging. So as you see that pulse continue, it is actively charging. Once it is fully charged, it'll stay solid blue, and the next one up the stack should turn on in a matter of seconds and start that pulsing process as well. And once the full stack is a solid blue light, then that is your indication that your trackers are charged and ready to go 100%. And these trackers should last about 10 to 11 hours of playtime. So I recommend personally just plugging them in each time you use them or after you use them. So that way you have optimal function every time you want to jump into VR with our trackers. Just to be clear, if you have a Pro set, you should have a stack of 3, another stack of 3, and then a stack of 4 trackers all plugged into the 3 cable system provided and plugged into the single port of the wall outlet that we provide. I would not charge these on your computer. That is not going to give you enough power to be able to drive to the trackers. Use the brick provided. If you have a core set or a core enhanced set, you can do any order of stacks that you want, but the shorter the stack, the better, because these charge sequentially, so one after the other. And so the shorter the stack, the faster the overall charge time. You could expect it to be about an hour per tracker if you're going from 0% to 100%. But if you charge between each play session or just charge overnight, it should be in the matter of a couple hours to be able to charge your stack. Now that your trackers are fully charged, let's go ahead and jump onto the computer to set up the Slime server and get your full body into VR. So the first step to getting set up is heading over to somaticvr.com/getting started. And this is a web page that will basically walk through everything I'm going to walk through in this video. But the first step outlined above is to download the Slime server. So if you click this button, it'll go ahead and download it to your computer. And it should only take a couple seconds because it's a fairly small file. And go ahead and launch that file. When you do, you'll need to allow it to make changes. I already have the Slime server on my computer, so I'm going to click Update and allow it to install onto my computer. And again, this should be relatively quick. Basically what this server is is the system that takes all the rotation data from the trackers and then does the math to be able to do the full body calculations. This also installs a secondary package called the Feeder app that allows you to connect all that data to Steam VR as well. And so that way it can emulate Vive trackers as it's sending that data. And when you look down in Steam VR apps, you'll see the trackers that are reminiscent of a Vive tracker rendered in real time. So it's already installed. So go ahead and click Next. And I would install the shortcut just because it's a fairly useful thing to have. Great. Now that you have the Slime server downloaded and installed on your PC and now launched, you can go ahead and get started. Now, if you're watching this video anytime after I've released it, you can verify that you're on the same version as me. Right now I'm on v0.11.0. So if you are on a later version of the Slime server, you might see some differences in the walkthrough or the visuals, but the general thesis should still hold true. I'll release updated videos if there are substantial changes to the server in the future. But the first step that you should see is to click Let's Get Set Up. So go ahead and do so. And the very first screen you'll see is to input your Wi-Fi credentials. I set up a custom network here, Somatic VR, and super secure password is demo1234. You want to make sure that all of your inputs are both case and space accurate. I just want to repeat that because this is a #1 area that people mess up, and it does not give you a whole lot of feedback. It is case and space sensitive. So as you can see here on my Wi-Fi name, I capitalized VR and S in Somatic. If you do not do this, the system will just spin endlessly trying to find the server, and it won't be able to help you really understand why it's not finding it. The password is also case and space sensitive, so the D in my demo is capitalized. Once you have that information input correctly, go ahead and click Submit. And it'll take you to this screen where you can start provisioning your trackers. Effectively, what your PC is going to do is give the Wi-Fi credentials that you just typed in and connect your trackers to your router. That way, all the data that's on your trackers can pass over the router to your PC or laptop or whatever is running the server. And so you can track if it's working by watching this little purple guy look around trying to find your trackers. So take one of your trackers, again, take them off the stack. That way you're not having any risk of the reverse flow charging that I talked about earlier. And you can take either the white cable that's in your box or the black cable that's in your box and plug it into your PC. And if you're going to use the black cable, make sure that the plug that you're putting into your tracker is the one that has the 3-pronged data. If you use any other ones, like the ones that have the lightning bolt on them, these only transfer power and it will not work. You have to use the data transfer because, again, what your computer's trying to do is transfer the data that is the Wi-Fi login credentials to the tracker so that way they can connect to your router. So go ahead and take your tracker off your stack and plug it in to your PC. And you should hear a chime indicating that it's connected. It'll send the credentials, connect it to your router, and connect to the server. And it should only take a few seconds like that. And you'll see on there, the name of the tracker is IMU tracker and a random string of numbers. You'll see the battery percentage, and you'll see the connection strength. The battery percentage isn't entirely accurate when it's plugged in because it thinks it's always 100% because it has plenty of power. The Wi-Fi strength signal should give you an indication of is this going to work for you depending on the range from your router. The closer you are to your router and the fewer obstructions between you and your router, the better. These work on the 2.4 gigahertz band, so they should have a decent range. But it's always going to work better if you have your own personal router that you can control. That way you're not competing with a bunch of other devices on the network. The more devices, the more congestion, and the more packets that will be lost in transfer to your router into your PC. So that's one tracker done. And go ahead and take another tracker off the stack and repeat. You don't have to click any buttons. It'll automatically start the process. And I'm going to go through a pro set here, one at a time. And that way you can see, and there we go, that one really quick, how long this should take. And again, it's probably somewhere around 10 seconds a tracker. If it's taking much longer than that, if you're at 20, 30, 40 seconds of this purple guy spinning, something's gone wrong, and you probably need to go back to the previous screen and verify that you put in the correct login credentials. If you have 100% verified that that is correct, then you might need to get closer to your router. Okay. So 5 would be a core set. So what you're seeing here would be enough for a core set. I'm going to go ahead and plug in for a 6th. And a 7th. And you can see all of my trackers have good range, and you can also see the numbers next to them jumping around. That is called your ping. That is how long it takes to communicate to the router and back. And so you really want your ping to be less than 10 pretty consistently. It's okay if it jumps up into the teens and maybe even the 20s. If it goes much beyond the 20s, you're going to start noticing some latency, which is not a great time. So you want to try and keep that as low as possible. And the best ways to control that are get close to your router and make sure that there's not too many devices connected to your router. It doesn't have to be a fancy high-end router for this to work, because again, it's on the 2.4 gigahertz band, and pretty much any router that's been made in the last like 2 decades should be able to handle that. That might be an oversimplification, but you get my point. And there we go. So that is all your trackers connected. And once they're connected, you can have them stacked. That's perfectly fine. And you can move them around. As I move them, you see them light up in purple. So that indicates, here, I'll take the top one off. And now I'm just moving this one. You can see it light up in purple like that. So once you have all of your trackers connected, go ahead and click I connected all my trackers. Place them flat on the surface. And click when they are flat on the table, go ahead and click that. And I'll go ahead and calibrate. This is just to minimize drift over time. The BNOs that we use in our trackers are already very high quality. This just makes them that much better. Okay, and now you're going to go into the labeling side. So I would go ahead and get out one of your sticker sheets and go through each of these and place them on the top surface of your trackers. If you would like to be able to label them, it just makes it easier to put on and off in the future. And I typically only put it on the top surface. If you put it on the side, there's the likelihood that you're going to block the LED, which is a key indicator for charging status or error statuses and stuff like that. So really only put it on the top surface if you can. And we provide all 10 labels for all sets. So if you just have a core set, just use the ankle, thigh, and waist, or chest, depending on which one you want to use. I'll walk through the differences there in just a little bit. If you're using a pro set, go ahead and use all 10. Once you have them all labeled, go ahead and click I put labels and straps. And before getting into this, I will show you how to put your straps on. So now let's get you set up with all of your straps and get them properly sized for you, so that way it's easy to get on and off in the future. So in your box, you should have 6 small, 2 mediums, and 2 larges if you have a pro set. Additionally, it comes with the 10 pads for comfort that you can go ahead and add before going through this process. I'm not going to show that, but effectively they're self-adhesive, so you can just stick them to the back of any strap adapter that you like, and that is the white bit here that holds the tracker in place. So to size these, I typically let them be loose, and so I'll show ankles first. Go ahead and wrap them around, and you can hook onto the D-ring, the little black plastic bit, onto the 2 prongs, so that way it creates a loop. I leave them as loose as possible, and then go ahead and remove the Velcro and tighten it down. So that way it's nice and tight on my ankle, and in the future I can just remove it very easily like that. One finger, just flick it off, and it's easy to put on and off. Now I'll go ahead and take one of your sticker labels as well, and place it as your left ankle, like I just put it on my left ankle there. Go ahead and take another one, wrap it around, and then take the Velcro and tighten. The Velcro is pretty sturdy, so you don't need to worry about that too terribly much. But once they're nice and secure and comfortable, you're good to go. And go ahead and grab your mediums, which are your thigh straps. With the Velcro, cinch it down. And as you probably noticed, is I have my ankles typically facing outwards, so that way when the trackers are there, you're not clipping them against each other by accident. And I have my thighs kind of in the middle and facing forward. I'll do that same thing for the right. And the direction that the Velcro cinches is kind of up to you, whatever's comfortable. But you want to make sure that the silicone surface of your strap is facing your body, so that way you're getting the maximum amount of grip possible. And so the long one, there's a lot of debate in the slime community about which is best. You can either have it on your waist or your chest. But I typically put it on my waist, just because it's a little bit more comfortable for me. But there is benefits to your tracking quality overall if you have it on your chest. And they're pretty much interchangeable on the sizing as well. So go ahead and make the belt, wrap it around, and it's now cinched. And so you can adjust, and there you go. So that is 5 set up, and I could just as easily undo this and move it up here if I wanted it to be a chest tracker. In a core set, you will get 2 of these strap supports. And so in a chest mounted position, you can use these to go over your shoulder and attach to the Velcro on either side to be able to provide a little bit of up support to this strap, so that way it doesn't slip during movement, dance, whatever you're doing. And if you wear it down on your waist, you can also use these, which I'll demonstrate now. I typically go underneath and over. You can use these to secure your thigh straps with a little bit more upward force, so that way it doesn't slip during play. This is typically the way that I like to use them, just because my thighs just tend to slip more than others. And you can wrap it around both or secure it directly to the Velcro on the strap itself. It's up to you, but it should look something like that, so that way this belt is providing a little bit of upward force on these straps. Now I'll go ahead and do the chest. Just to make it easy, I'm going to make a guess on the chest to begin with, so I kind of know my size. And that actually fits pretty nicely, so I'm going to leave it there. The arms, you can drape over, just like that, with the strap adapter facing inwards, and wrap the D-ring up. You can adjust it as needed. I, again, like to have my strap adapter facing outwards, so that way there's no risk of clipping or grabbing anything. And you can remove the Velcro, cinch it down. Now it's nice and snug on my arm. I'm going to do the same thing onto my right. And voila. And I will go ahead and do my foot as well. So I typically like it to have the hooks facing the inside of my foot, just based on my body's anatomy. It tends to fit and feel better. The foot is, I think, the #1 area that the strap adapter comfort pad is needed. Because if you're going to be wearing these things long term, you want that little extra cush if you can. Okay. And there we go. And so lastly, now that I have all 10 of my straps on, with the Pro set, you get 2 additional strap supports. And so I'm going to use these to be able to create the shoulder straps. So I went ahead and attached it directly to the chest. And I'm going to disconnect and attach it to the back of the strap. I'll do the same thing to the other side. So attach there. And there. So this should create a shoulder strap effect. So you can go ahead and put them on. They're very soft and very flexible, so they should be able to fit a variety of body types. And there you go. So now in the future, all of this is properly sized for you. So it's very easy to get on and off. And I'll actually show that right now. So you can go ahead and just grab, release, take this off. I'd try and keep it organized the best I could. Go ahead and take off the waist. And because I have the thigh strap supports on there as well, they're all connected, just like that. And then I can take off the ankles. I can take off the feet. And I can take off the arms, just like that. Quick and easy. And so just to show, again, how easy it is to put it on, I'm going to put them on really quick. So now that it's properly sized, I personally like to work from top to bottom, but any order would do. Just like that. And there is a difference between the hip and the waist. The hip is a lower point. The waist tends to be kind of closer to the belly button region. Okay, and just like that, you are all suited up. Again, so very easy to get in and out. And now I'll show you how to get the trackers assigned to the various parts of your body.
Okay, at this point of the setup, I would recommend that you go ahead and throw on your headset. That way it has all that data to be able to work with the calibration process that we're going to walk through. And when you do so, you should see the feeder app launch if you're using Steam VR to do this. So I am using Steam VR. I'll move that out of the way. And this is the screen that we left off at, which is the body mounting positions. And you can toggle this little button. That would allow you to see all of the settings that you can, or all the placements that you can use. We are only going to be using the basic ones, so you don't need to go into that secondary screen unless you want to go into more of the V-tubing motion capture space. And so go ahead and start assigning trackers. So I'm going to place my controller down, grab the first tracker, and I'm going to assign it to my chest. And so here's the list of all of the various trackers that are being recorded, as well as the headset and the 2 controllers for the hands. So when you shake a tracker, you'll see it turn purple, so that way you can know which one. You can either click it, like I'm going to do for this one, to be able to select it. So now that is my chest tracker, and you can see it still shake purple to indicate that that is correct. For the next one, I'm going to use for my hip track, and it's this one, and you can also select it by double tapping, and it will automatically select it just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and place that on my hip. The next one, I'm going to put on my right upper arm. So it's this one. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust that one out just a little bit. There we go. That way it's facing outwards. I'm going to do my left upper arm. Oh. Upper arm, not lower arm. Because lower arms are mostly calculated with the controllers that you're going to be using. So again, this is the tracker. You can see it. I'm going to click this one and place it. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my right thigh. This one, double tap. Sometimes it doesn't really register the double tap. There we go. So it takes a couple of attempts. I'm going to do left thigh, double tap. Left ankle, double tap. Right ankle, double tap. And you should feel just a good grab by the magnets onto those strike plates or the metal discs. Left foot, double tap. And last but not least, right foot. There we go. And just like that, we're all set up. So you can go ahead and click I am ready. And then you have automatic mounting or manual mounting. So if you were to do manual, you would go through each of these one by one and define their orientation to your body. So I will do my chest as an example. So you can see the foot is the orientation of your body. And so this chest tracker is facing the front. And so you go one by one. Like my right arm is facing the right outside. Left arm is left outside. So you go through all of these and do that calibration, or with the automatic mounting, which has gotten significantly better in the most recent update. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So put on all of your trackers. This is where I'd recommend that you have your headset on. Click I have all my trackers on. And now we're going to do the preparation. So full reset basically takes all of your trackers and orients them to the headset's direction. So go ahead and click full reset and stand in an I pose. So stand up straight, full reset. And actually, just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and grab my other controller and do this again. So you can click previous if you want to redo it. You'll hear a little chime. Okay, and there we go. So mounting reset is you're going to go into a skier's pose. So what this looks like is you squat down. You want your ankles to be tilted forward just a little bit. Your thighs to be not quite 90 degrees, but definitely low. And you want your chest and waist to be basically upright if you can. And have your arms down at your sides like so. So go ahead and click reset mounting, look forward. And there you go. So this is a little visual to help you see, did you do it right? So I lift my right leg out. So that looks pretty darn good. And I can move my arms around and you get a little indication of if you are properly calibrated. So that is basic calibration. Now it's going to walk you through a reset tutorial. So the biggest issue with IMU trackers is they tend to drift a little bit over time, which means that if there's even a slight amount off, that becomes additive every single time it goes through this loop of sending data because it doesn't have any ground truth to anchor on. So if it's just slightly off, in a minute you won't notice it, in 10 minutes you might notice it, 30 minutes you probably will, an hour you definitely will. The better the IMU, the longer this drift time becomes. So we use the top-of-the-line consumer IMU available, the B&O. You might see others on the marketplace using like BMIs, and that's the trade-off that you have between cost and drift. And so this, by double tapping the chest, it will reset the trackers in the same direction as your headset. So basically the reset that I talked about earlier. So if you double tap it, you want to be in a I formation. And so you just tap it twice and it'll do that reset. Okay, so now if you tap your left leg 3 times, it'll trigger a full reset. So this will reset everything back to the original mounting that we just did, according to the headset's location. So go ahead and tap it 3 times. And stand up straight, and you have 3 seconds to get up. And then the right side is going to be redoing the mounting. So very similar to what we just did, you will want to tap this 3 times and then get into your skier's position. So go ahead and there you go. So all of those are the various resets to be able to adjust if there's drift or any sort of error taking place, so you don't have to take the headset off multiple times during a play session. The one you'll most use is probably the left leg's full reset. So just remember, left leg is full reset. And so you tap it 3 times and stand up straight, and everything should go back to the way that it started. So that is the reset tutorial. And now we're going to move on to the proportions. This is one of the more challenging parts to get right, and it might take a few attempts to be able to really dial these in. I recommend you start with the automatic proportions. This will only work if you have your headset connected. So it has to be connected via AirLink or virtual desktop or SteamLink or something like that. Make sure that your headset is connected, and that way this button is clickable. If it's not clickable, your headset's probably not connected. The manual proportions are a little bit more finicky. I'll click on it now just so you can see. It'll show you your bone estimation that it is doing based on the mounting that we just did. And you can dial up and down all the various segments and the various proportions of those segments to really fine-tune your model. I would recommend that you start with the automatic proportions and then dial it in with the manual proportions if you feel like it needs just a little bit of fine-tuning. So I'm going to go to the previous step and click automatic proportions. So again, it's going to verify all of your trackers are on correctly. I have all my trackers on. So you want to make sure that you have enough space. You need at least 5 trackers to be able to do the calibration properly. And you need to make sure that your headset is feeding the data to your computer that is currently running the Slime server. So now it is going to use the headset to be able to assess your height. So go ahead and click I am standing, stand straight up. And there you go. So that is, you want to make sure that your height is accurate. That is the number one thing. Your HMD height is going to be a little bit lower because it's based on your eye height. Your actual height needs to be accurate, so make sure that that is correct. If this is incorrect, you need to go in and do the calibration of the play space again, because it's basing it off of the play space that you're in. Okay, and so now these are the steps that you need to go through to be able to do the full body proportions. And I'm going to go through them first, just without adding the timer. And so you typically want to be looking straight ahead and move your head in a circle while locking eyes on a certain point in the distance. You don't want to be doing a big head roll, you just want to be going in a circle. Okay, that's move number 1. Move number 2 is you're going to go into that skier's pose that we talked about earlier, and look left and look right. Move number 3 is after you're done with looking right, you can tilt down to the left and tilt down to the right. And then you stand up. And the last move is a little bit of a hula. You don't need to do a wide hula because this will make your hip proportions very large. You just want to do a little bit of a hula. Okay? And if you have extra time, you can repeat these steps just to give it more data to work with. All you're trying to do is move these trackers in known ways. That way the math on the back end can do the body proportion estimation. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start Recording and move my head down, left, right, bend over, and hula. And I have more time, so I'm going to do more of this. It's a little dance. So go ahead and over, and hula. And I have 4 seconds left. And that should be it. So it's going to take a few seconds to process the result of that little dance. And I typically look at these just to see, does that feel in the ballpark? You can see your neck length. That feels about right. If I've seen it go like 16, 20 centimeters before, and I'm like, I don't have a 20 centimeter neck. There's something wrong. I'm going to go back and redo the recording. But this looks correct to me. And you can do another quick check visually now. And if you are in Slime or Steam, you can now look down and you'll see your Vive trackers emulated in space with you. So that allows you to see, okay, that looks pretty darn good to me. And you can see the move quickly with you. So go ahead and click Continue if you're good, and you're all set. So now you can see all of your trackers. My left controller might have died. Not quite sure. I'll look into that later. But the rest of them are the trackers that we made, and they are all connected. And you can see the ping is staying in the single digits, sometimes in the teens, and then very rarely you might see a spike into the 22 millisecond range very, very briefly. That is acceptable. So, to see all of this data, because you might not have this exact view, you need to go to Settings and go to your Appearance. Under Appearance, you need to click on Developer Mode. Okay? So, with Developer Mode off, it would look something like this, which is probably what you're seeing right now. So go ahead and go again in Appearance, Developer Mode. You can also scale up the text to make it easier to see. And there you go. Additionally, once you have your tracker set up, I'll go to my right ankle. This is typically what you would see, is you have all the data feed coming in, and you can pause tracking, you can record data for full body motion capture, for rendering of avatars and stuff like that. You can do the various resets. You could also click Preview to see a render of that tracker, and as I move my right ankle, that is a render of its position in space. And that is the data. That is just to troubleshoot to make sure that the data is actually feeding the way that you expect. And if anything feels off, you can always go back through the tracker assignment, the mounting calibration, or body proportions here. Going back to the settings, I'm going to walk through all the various settings that you can play with. It's really a matter of dialing it into your preferences. But first, if you're going to be using Steam VR, make sure that you check the correct settings for what you're actually using. So this is a Pro set, so I have all of them checked. If it was a Core set, I would not have foot tracking. And I would not have elbow tracking, but I would choose either chest or waist. So I'd probably just leave knees, waist. Actually, I misspoke. I would include feet, just because it does approximate the foot tracker for thighs. Down here, you can do no filtering. I wouldn't recommend that. That's just the raw output of the IMUs. Smoothing you can play around with, or prediction, where a lot of people prefer prediction, and people like to have it between 30 and 60, sometimes 70%. this just allows it to be a little bit of a smoother experience. And so you can dial this up and down, look down, see what feels right for you as you're going through it. Drift compensation, you don't really need for the B&Os, so I go ahead and check that off. Skating correction, this basically just keeps your feet planted in the ground when you're moving around. I'll go ahead and leave that checked, leave the 30% is the base, I wouldn't touch that. Floor clip and plant, basically it's to make sure that your feet aren't just diving through the floor every time you place your foot to the ground. And the rest of the stuff, honestly, I wouldn't touch, because this is getting to like the proportions that were auto-calculated before. If you start toggling with this stuff, you're going to have to go back and redo all your calibration steps. And you also have the gesture controls that you can toggle on and off if they're becoming irritating or accidentally activating. You can turn them off here if you want. Okay, so this is where I was before to turn on the developer mode, but you can also change your colors and notifications. And then OSC. So OSC is the protocol that you can use to be able to use your slime trackers without having to have a VR-capable computer. So rather than having VR chat or any other game running on the computer, I'm running it on a headset alone, and the trackers will be communicating to my computer and then communicating that data directly to the headset. So if you're going to be doing that in VR chat with standalone VR chat, go ahead and click here, and you can enable it here, and you're going to have to put in your network address. And this is the network address for the custom network I set up for this. So you want to go into, I'm going to just do it on the Quest. You click the Meta button, go to your settings panel, and then under Wi-Fi, select the Wi-Fi that you are connected to, that is the same Wi-Fi that the PC is connected to that's running the slime server. And if you scroll down, you should see IP address, and it's a string of numbers, 192 dot something. So go ahead and either write that down, copy it, what have you, and put it into the slime server. So go ahead and place that into the slime server here, and then check the trackers that you are using, just like we did for the Steam VR setup a moment ago. And then there are other ways that you can capture virtual motion capture data. That way you can, again, do full body animations. And then lastly is the serial console. You probably will not have to interact with this unless something is going wrong with your trackers themselves. So in order to use this, you would just plug a tracker into your computer, and you would be able to reboot it or get info about it as we're troubleshooting with you together. If you are having issues, I would recommend that you either reach out to us on our website or DM me on Discord. I'm Somatic Mike on our Discord server. Or you can email me directly at michael.moore, and that's michael.moore@somaticvr.com. And I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible, and likely jump on a video call so that way we can walk through this server together to try and troubleshoot what's going on. But yeah, that is effectively everything you need to know about getting set up with the slime server itself. At this point, all of our trackers are properly feeding data. All of them are feeding it at a respectable rate. You can also see the TPS stands for transfers per second. That is how frequently the IMU is able to transmit its rotation data to the server. So 100 times a second is how quickly this is going. And then you can also, because we're in developer mode, see the relative rotation of all of these various trackers, and as I move, they will light up in purple. And the relative battery percentage for each of these. And again, if they are currently charging, the battery percentage is going to be inaccurate, but if they are not charging, they are accurate. So they're all in the ballpark of 75 to, 91%, somewhere in that ballpark. So plenty of battery to last me for however long I want to play today. So now that I have this set up, I'm going to jump over into VR chat, both in the Slime version, or in the Steam version, excuse me, and the standalone version to show you how that would work. Great, so now we are in VR chat, and you can see my avatar over there, but I do not have full body tracking set up yet. So when I move around, it doesn't really capture any of that other than my hands and my head. So let's go ahead and get this set up. I am in the Steam version, but the process is pretty much identical between Steam and the Oculus native application. The only primary thing you need to know is that to do it on Oculus, you need to have the beta application downloaded, which you can find in the App Lab. So now that that's out of the way, get into VR chat and go ahead and launch the settings menu with the Y button on, that's the top one on your left hand. First, I would head over to settings and scroll down until you see tracking and IK, which stands for inverse kinematics, or how they do the calculation of your body. Use your user real height. I'm 5'7", so make sure that is accurate. And then avatar measurement I do by height. Allow full body tracking, FBT on. Lock to hip instead of locking to the head. And I go ahead and add the FBT locomotion animation. I leave that on. So you can calibrate FBT from this screen right here, or on the main launch page moving forward, you can calibrate directly from this. So just click Calibrate FBT. There we go. So you can see the bubbles, the white bubbles are basically visual indicators of where they see the trackers are. So you want to try and match your avatar's body as best you can. And when you have it lined up, pull both the triggers at the same time. And voila. So now my upper body is tracked, lower body is tracked. You can see my feet can be pointed and tilted. And some people can get really high fidelity avatars. This is just a stock avatar. But you can see I can twist my hips, I can move my body, I can even turn all the way around, grab the little opening on my back, just like that. So there we go. And I'll go ahead and make a second video to show the core versus core enhanced versus pro, so you can see the differences between all the different setups. But this is how you get it set up. And you should see it reflect pretty darn accurately. And you can see in the video my body versus my avatar's movements are pretty much one-to-one. Now, I didn't take the time to really dial things in with my proportions, but overall, the initial guess is what you see here, which is pretty darn good. And you can go ahead and squat down and get back up. You can kick, and they should stay on. And if you do notice that it does get out of proportion because you went too quick, just go ahead and full reset. And just like that, you're good to go. So okay. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Voila.
And there you have it. You are all up and running with your full body tracking. So if you have any questions at all or any issues getting set up, feel free to reach out to us on our Discord or contact me directly at michael.moore@somaticvr.com, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Otherwise, happy tracking.